Hi, this is my video response to Khaya and reindeer about South Africa being worse off since apartheid. Most of my comments are going to be directed towards Khaya. And Khaya, do really enjoy your videos. I think you're an exceptionally vocal black person who I think we needed more people like yourself. You are very controversial, and sometimes your points can be a little bit skewed, so I'm here just to correct a couple of them and maybe make you aware if you weren't aware of them already. Anyway, just a quick one, just on affirmative action, which when the ANC initially introduced that was meant for previously disadvantaged communities. The ANC, within about 3 years of that policy coming out, then excluded Indians and coloureds from that policy, making previously disadvantaged exclusively black, which according to history would then mean that only blacks suffer under apartheid. If that's the message that the ANC is sending out, I think in terms of unifying a nation, that is pretty poor going. Second of all, with regards to your statistics about the economy, and I'm going to quote facts just like yourself rather than rhetoric. Yes, according to your numbers, South Africa does have the 27th largest GDP in the world, ahead of countries, as you mentioned, like Ireland, which I found very bizarre that you would compare us to Ireland, because South Africa's got 43 million people, and Ireland's only got 6, and yet they were just behind us. Ireland has only got 7% of the land that South Africa's got. Oh, and by the way, Ireland does not have people living in shacks with no running water. So, although South Africa's got such a big GDP, where is that GDP going to? You also mentioned that we had 5% growth. And then you also mentioned countries like India and Brazil. Well, India, for instance, had 9.4% growth last year. And for a developing country, which is really where we should be comparing ourselves to, we find that India actually did 9.4%. So in terms of comparing ourselves to developing countries, South Africa is actually doing about half of where we should be. Well, the current deficit account in South Africa is the highest in 36 years. We're importing more goods than what we're exporting, and at a loss on our currency rate. Inflation is also at a 5-year high. So I take on board all the positives you can bring about South Africa. All I'm saying is just let's not do that to the detriment of what's wrong with the country either. Well, we have to ask ourselves, in order to be somebody who's really concerned about your country, right, you have to have a view of what's right about your country, but you also have to have a look at your country and say, what's not right with your country? And therefore, tackle that and move forward with that. If we just sit back and compliment ourselves about how well we've done, we're never going to move forward. My biggest gripe with South Africa today, and yes, I have a gripe, is why do we not have an opposition that black people have an alternative to the ANC? Why is it that the ANC is the only party that a black man can vote for? I mean, let's face it, the Democratic Alliance is a toothless tiger, and if I was a black person, would I be voting for a white woman? Forget it. And would I be voting for Inkatha Freedom Party, who is so marginalized in KwaZulu-Natal? I would certainly entertain voting for Patricia de Lille, but unfortunately she's not going fast enough. So why is it that the ANC is so tight? I'm sure there are MPs in there that their conscience does bite them with some of the policies. I'm sure that they don't all back Mbeki or even Jacob Zuma. So why is it that they're there? Is it that they're so well paid that they refuse to split? Because if they were to split, let's face it, there would be an alternative to the party, to the ANC. And that would mean that all of a sudden the ANC would be held accountable. That all of a sudden if there were disaffected people in South Africa that were not happy with ANC, they had somebody else to vote for. What is it going to take in South Africa to get an effective opposition? Anyway, I just wanted to end the note on, if we're such a great country according to your numbers, why is it that we have some very, very, very bad numbers, you mentioned some of the good ones. Why are we still, after all this time, the highest murder, rape and AIDS in the world? Is it not because our government is simply not functioning and do not feel for 1 second that their power, their group and power is threatened? They have no threat. So Khaya, I really enjoy you because you really stimulate debate, and I wish more people would be able to discuss things like that. And to Reindeer, yes, loads of passion, mate, but I guess swearing on YouTube about these kind of issues raises more aggression than actually stirring debate. So yeah, there's my response. I would love to hear from you, and